Polo G hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 2021 with Rap Star, became one of Chicago's biggest exports since Chief Keef, and built a multi-million-dollar empire before he turned 23. But by 2023, he'd been arrested 4 times in 2 years on charges ranging from battery on a police officer to kidnapping and armed robbery. One of those arrests went viral when body cam footage showed him cursing out Miami cops while his mother screamed in the background.
You gonna tell me what the I did?
Don't do drugs. That's not what it said.
I'm tired of talking to your wife. No life for real, bro.
And just a year before that, he nearly died from a drug overdose at a house party, collapsing so hard his friends thought he was gone.
Everything went black like spit out a movie. When I woke up, I was in a hospital.
For someone who constantly talks about responsibility and being a role model, Polo G's track record tells a different story. He's preached about protecting his image, about raising his son in a better environment than he grew up in, but he keeps making the same mistakes. The question isn't whether he has talent. His 3 platinum albums prove that. The question is whether he can get out of his own way long enough to reach the level his music deserves. His name honors a friend who died at 16. His breakout single was written in juvenile detention. And despite every warning sign, every close call, every night in a cell, he still can't seem to leave the streets alone. This is the story of Polo G. Taurus Tremonti Bartlett was born January 6, 1999 in Chicago, and he grew up in the Marshall Field Garden Apartments on the city's north side, part of the Cabrini Green public housing projects. If you know anything about Cabrini Green, you know it was one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in America during the 90s and early 2000s. Gang violence, drug trafficking, police raids, it was all routine. By the time Polo G was old enough to understand what was happening around him, the vice lords had a heavy presence in his area, and shootings were something you just learned to live with. His mother, Stacia Mack, raised him and his 3 siblings alone after his parents split. She worked as a property manager and later became a real estate professional, doing everything she could to keep the family afloat, but money was tight.
My mama really stood 10 and taking care of us. Primarily just taking care of us, making sure we were straight, like doing the best jobs that she can.
And violence was all around him.
It was rough coming up, but it's like as a kid, everything was like more light. It's more innocent. You more innocent. It's like
that kind of poverty sticks with you, and it shows up constantly in his music. References to struggle, to watching his mother work herself to the bone, to wanting more than what the projects could offer. Despite everything, he was a smart kid. His teachers noticed it, his mother noticed it, and for a while, it seemed like he might actually make it out the traditional way. He did well in school, stayed curious, and even got accepted to Lincoln University to study broadcasting. He wanted to be the next Stephen A. Smith, someone who could talk about sports on TV and make a living with his voice. But Chicago had other plans. By the time he was a teenager, the streets were pulling harder than any college brochure ever could. He started affiliating with the vice lords, not because he was some hardened gangster, but because that's just what happened in his neighborhood. If you grew up where he did, you either claimed a set or you became a target. He's downplayed his involvement in interviews since blowing up, but the police records and his own lyrics make it clear he was in deep enough to catch cases. His first brushes with the law started in 2017. Truancy, trespassing, hindering a recovery vessel, assault, small charges that added up. By early 2018, he'd been arrested for using a stolen car. Nothing stuck long term, but it was enough to put him on the radar. And through all of this, he was freestyling. His family called him Rapper Dude because he'd walk around the house, making up bars, testing flows, trying to sound like Lil Wayne or Gucci Mane. Music wasn't a career plan yet. It was just something he did for fun, a way to blow off steam in a neighborhood where there weren't many other outlets. But in 2014, something happened that changed everything. One of his closest friends, a kid everyone called Gucci, was shot and killed in Chicago. He was only 16 years old.
That really like messed up my understanding. Like I ain't understand like how I'm only 15, my homie only 16 years old, and he, you feel me, died to gunfire.
Polo G has said that loss gutted him in a way nothing else had. He didn't know how to process it, didn't know where to put all that grief and anger. So he started writing, not just freestyles anymore, real songs with structure and emotion and purpose. The G in Polo G is for Gucci. Every time someone says his name, he's honoring a friend who never made it out of their teens. By 2016, Polo G was a senior in high school, and he had a decision to make. On the day of his prom, he was supposed to show up, take pictures, do the whole traditional senior thing. Instead, he walked away from the event to go film a music video. His mother wasn't thrilled, but she saw how serious he was. He told her he'd give music 1 year. If nothing happened, he'd go to college. She agreed, and he dropped out of Lincoln University on day 1 to pursue rap full-time. His first uploads hit YouTube and SoundCloud in 2017. Songs like Odeye and Gang With Me started circulating in Chicago, and while they didn't blow up nationally, they got attention locally. locally. People in his neighborhood started recognizing his voice, his flow, the way he could switch between melodic hooks and hard street bars without losing the thread. He was grinding, recording in cheap studios, doing shows at small venues, trying to build something real. But the money still wasn't there, and the streets were still pulling. Then, in late 2018, everything changed. Polo G got locked up again, this time in juvenile detention on another petty charge. While he was inside, he wrote a song called Finer Things. It was different from everything else he'd done, more vulnerable, more reflective, less focused on flexing, and more focused on pain. When he got out and recorded it, the song exploded. Millions of views on YouTube, cosigns from people in the industry. And suddenly, Polo G wasn't just a local name anymore. He was next up. Finer Things changed everything, but it didn't happen overnight. The song dropped in late 2018 and slowly built momentum through early 2019. What made it different wasn't just the melodic delivery or the production, it was the honesty. He wasn't trying to be the hardest guy in Chicago or out-drill Chief Keef. He was talking about watching his mother struggle, about friends dying, about wanting a way out, but not knowing if he'd ever find it. That vulnerability connected with people who were tired of the same tough guy act every Chicago rapper was selling. By early 2019, labels were circling. Columbia Records saw the numbers, saw the buzz, and started negotiations. But Polo G wasn't ready to sign yet. He wanted one more moment to prove he wasn't a one-hit wonder. And in April 2019, he dropped Pop Out, featuring Lil TJ. The song was an instant hit. The music video racked up tens of millions of views in the first few weeks, and the single climbed to number 11 on the Billboard Hot 100. Radio stations that wouldn't touch him 6 months earlier were playing it on repeat. DJs on Hot 97 and Beats One were calling him the future of Chicago rap. Columbia came back with a real offer, and this time Polo G signed. By mid-2019, he had major label backing, a growing fan base, and the kind of industry cosigns that can make or break a career. Lil Durk, Juice WRLD, Lil Baby, all of them were showing love publicly, and that mattered in a city like Chicago where credibility is everything. On June 7, 2019, he released his debut album, Die a Legend. It debuted at number 6 on the Billboard 200, a massive accomplishment for someone who'd been recording in basement studios a year earlier. The album had hits like Battle Cry and Through Dawstorm, and it proved he could sustain success beyond a couple of viral singles. Critics praised his storytelling, his melodic ear, and his ability to balance street content with introspection. He wasn't just another drill rapper, he was something different. But success brought new problems. With money came access, and with access came temptation. Polo G had always been around drugs. Growing up in Cabrini Green, that was unavoidable. But now he had the means to indulge, and the pressure of sudden fame made it easy to justify. Pills, lean, ecstasy, all of it was floating around the parties he was getting invited to, and by summer 2019, he was using regularly. In August 2019, he went to a party and took a combination of ecstasy and Xanax. He's never said exactly how much, but it was enough to shut his body down. He collapsed, stopped responding, and the people around him thought he was dead. Someone got him to a hospital and the doctors were able to stabilize him, but it was close, really close.
Everything went black like out a movie. When I woke up, I was in a hospital.
When he woke up, he made a decision. He was done with hard drugs. No more pills, no more lean, no more chasing the high that almost killed him. He's talked about it in interviews since, crediting that overdose with saving his life in the long run. If he hadn't hit rock bottom then, he might have kept going until there was no coming back. Juice WRLD's death a few months later in December 2019, another overdose, another young rapper gone, only reinforced how serious the stakes were. The overdose was a turning point, but it wasn't public knowledge yet. Polo G kept it quiet, focused on the music, and pushed forward. In 2019, he also became a father. His son, Tremonti, was born, and suddenly he had someone depending on him beyond himself. He said in interviews that fatherhood shifted his perspective, made him think longer term about legacy and responsibility. He wanted to give his son the kind of life he never had growing up: stability, safety, resources. By 2020, Polo G was everywhere. He dropped his second album, The GOAT, on May 15th, and it debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200. The project featured collaborations with Lil Baby and Mustard, plus a posthumous verse from Juice WRLD, who had died 6 months earlier. He was named to XXL's 2020 freshman class, appeared on Forbes' 30 Under 30 list, and founded his own label, Only Dreamers Achieve Records, to sign and develop other artists. Everything was moving fast, and he was keeping pace. But even as his career exploded, the legal issues didn't stop. He was still getting pulled over, still getting searched, still catching cases for things that should have been beneath someone at his level. Part of it was Chicago. Cops knew who he was, knew his background, and weren't about to give him the benefit of the doubt. Part of it was his own choices. He kept guns on him, kept moving in ways that made him a target for law enforcement, and no amount of success seemed to change that pattern. Then came 2021, the year that would define his career in ways he couldn't have predicted. In early 2021, Polo G released GNF OKOKOK, and then on April 9th dropped rap star. The song was a reflection on fame, success, and the weight of expectation. It was introspective, melodic, and perfectly timed. When it debuted at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, Polo G officially became a superstar. He wasn't just a rising artist anymore, he was a chart topper, someone who could compete with Drake and Lil Baby, and anyone else at the top of the game. 2 months later, on June 11th, he released his third album, Hall of Fame. It debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, cementing his place as one of the biggest rappers in the world. He bought a $4.9 million mansion in Los Angeles, filled the garage with luxury cars, and seemed to be living proof that you could make it out of Cabrini Green and never look back. But the same week Hall of Fame dropped, everything went sideways. On June 12, 2021, Polo G and his family were driving in Miami when they got pulled over. The official story from police is that the car was speeding and driving recklessly. Polo G's team says it was racial profiling, that the cops recognized who he was and wanted to make an example. Either way, the traffic stop escalated fast.
You gonna tell me what the I did?
Don't do that. That's not what it said.
I'm tired of talking to your wife. Everything says, no life for real, bro.
According to the police report, Polo G became aggressive, refused to comply, and ended up in a physical altercation with officers. They claim he resisted arrest and battered an officer. 2 guns were found in the vehicle, though Polo G wasn't the one holding them. He was charged with battery on a police officer, resisting arrest with violence, threatening a public servant, and criminal mischief. His mother and brother were also arrested. The whole thing was a disaster. His album release week, what should have been the highest point of his career, was overshadowed by mugshots and headlines about him fighting cops. His mother went on Twitter claiming the arrest was unjust, that they were targeted because of who they were. Polo G posted bond and got out, but the damage was done. The internet had a field day, memes were everywhere, and the narrative shifted from Polo G just went #1 to Polo G can't stay out of trouble. What made it worse was that a year later, in mid-2022, the body cam footage from the arrest leaked online. The video showed Polo G handcuffed, yelling at the officers, visibly furious. His mother was in the background screaming. It was raw, chaotic, and it went viral immediately. Millions of people watched it, dissected it, debated whether he was in the wrong or whether the cops were on a power trip. The footage didn't help his case. But here's the thing, by November 2021, prosecutors dropped the major charges. They couldn't make the battery or resisting charges stick, and Polo G ended up completing an anger management program in April 2022 to resolve the case. His legal team framed it as a vindication, proof that the arrest was overblown from the start, but the public didn't see it that way. All they saw was another young rapper who couldn't keep his name out of the news for the wrong reasons. The Miami arrest should have been a wake-up call, but 3 months later, Polo G was in handcuffs again. On September 6, 2021, he got pulled over in Los Angeles. Police searched the vehicle and found a concealed firearm. He was arrested on the spot and charged with felony gun possession. He posted $35,000 bail and walked out, but now he had 2 major legal cases hanging over him in the span of a single summer. This became the pattern. Traffic stop, search, gun found, arrest, bail posted, case pending. It happened so often that people stopped being surprised. The frustrating part was that Polo G had the resources to avoid all of it. He could have hired security, could have had drivers, could have done 100 things differently to keep himself out of situations where cops had a reason to search him, but he didn't. Whether it was stubbornness, distrust of people outside his circle, or just an inability to let go of the habits he picked up in Chicago, he kept putting himself in the same position. His music during this period reflected the tension. In 2022, he released singles like Distraction, Bag Talk, and My All, songs that balanced flexing with paranoia, success with the sense that it could all disappear at any moment. He wasn't dropping a full album, just loosies, to keep his name in rotation while he dealt with legal issues behind the scenes. He stayed visible, did features, appeared at festivals, but there was a sense that he was treading water rather than moving forward. Then in August 2023, the legal trouble escalated to a level he'd never seen before. Police raided his Los Angeles home and arrested both Polo G and his younger brother Trench Baby. Initially, the charges were for possession of an illegal short-barreled rifle, which on its own was serious enough. But 2 days later, the LAPD and Burbank Police Department hit him with something much worse: kidnapping, robbery, and assault with a deadly weapon, all stemming from an incident that allegedly happened back in April 2023. The details were murky. His attorney called the delay between the alleged crime and the charges very unusual and insisted Polo G was innocent, but the optics were terrible. Kidnapping and armed robbery aren't minor charges. You can brush off with a good lawyer and a settlement. If convicted, he was looking at real prison time, the kind that would derail his career entirely. He posted $100,000 bail and got out, but the case is still pending as of 2026. Less than a year later, in April 2024, he got arrested again, this time in Manhattan. Police found a loaded firearm in a vehicle he was in, and he was hit with weapons charges. He posted $25,000 bail and walked. Then in October 2024, another arrest in Los Angeles for illegal firearm possession. This time he was held without bail initially, then released on a $100,000 bond. At this point, the arrests weren't anomalies. They were a defining feature of his public image. Every album cycle, every tour announcement, every big career move came with the lingering question: how long until the next mugshot? Fans started joking about it online, making memes about Polo G's inability to stay out of police custody. But underneath the jokes was a real concern. This wasn't sustainable. You can only dodge serious consequences for so long before something sticks, and when it does, it's over. The frustrating part is that Polo G knows this. In interviews, he talks constantly about responsibility, about being a role model, about wanting to set a good example for his son. He completed anger management. He quit hard drugs after the overdose. He's repeatedly said he understands the weight of his position. But knowing what you're supposed to do and actually doing it are two different things, and Polo G has struggled to close that gap. Part of the problem is Chicago. He's never fully left, mentally or physically. He still moves like someone who grew up in Cabrini Green, still keeps guns on him because that's what you did to survive in the projects, still surrounds himself with people from the old neighborhood because those are the only people he trusts. That loyalty is admirable in some ways, but it's also a trap. The same instincts that helped him survive his childhood are now the ones putting his career at risk. And yet, through all of this, the music kept coming. On September 15, 2024, he released his fourth studio album, Hood Poet. It didn't debut at #1 like Hall of Fame, and it didn't have a runaway hit like Rap Star, but it proved he could still deliver quality projects, even while fighting legal battles on multiple fronts. The album leaned into his melodic strengths, featured collaborations with Future and other big names, and reminded people why they paid attention to him in the first place. But the question hanging over Hood Poet and everything Polo G does now is simple. How long can this last? How many more arrests before a judge decides bail isn't enough? How many more cases before one of them actually sticks and he's sitting in a cell instead of a studio? The talent is undeniable. The work ethic is there. The fan base is loyal. But none of that matters if he can't figure out how to stay free. The irony is that Polo G's biggest mistakes aren't the crimes themselves. They're the choices that led to them. The decision to keep moving the way he did in Chicago, even after he had the money and resources to move differently. The decision to carry guns when he could have hired armed security. The decision to put himself in situations where cops had an excuse to search him. Those are the mistakes that turned what should have been a triumphant rise into a constant battle with the legal system. In 2019, the overdose almost killed him, and he responded by getting sober and refocusing. That was growth, but the arrests kept coming, and each time he seemed surprised that the consequences were real. Each time he posted bail and walked out, acting like it was just bad luck or police harassment, when the reality was simpler. He kept making the same choices and expecting different results. The 2023 kidnapping and robbery charges are still unresolved. If those stick, everything changes. He could be looking at years in prison, and by the time he gets out, the rap game will have moved on. New artists will have taken his spot. His momentum will be gone, and he'll be starting over in his 30s, trying to rebuild what he had at 22. It's happened to plenty of rappers before him, and it'll happen to plenty after. But if he beats the charges, if he figures out how to stay out of trouble long enough to let his music speak for itself, he still has a chance to become what he was supposed to be, one of the greatest to ever come out of Chicago. The talent is there, the fan base is there, the platform is there. The only thing standing in his way is himself. Polo G went from writing bars in a notebook in Cabrini Green to hitting #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in less than 5 years. He survived poverty, violence, an overdose that nearly killed him, and a legal system that's tried to bury him multiple times. He's made millions, built a label, and proven he can compete with anyone in rap when he's locked in. But he's also been arrested 4 times in 2 years, caught charges serious enough to end his career, and repeatedly put himself in positions where the outcome was predictable. The overdose was the mistake that almost took his life. The arrests are the mistakes that might take his career. And the real tragedy is that none of it had to happen. He had every opportunity to move smarter, to protect what he built, to be the role model he keeps saying he wants to be. The story isn't over yet. Polo G is still out, still making music, still fighting cases. But the clock is ticking, and at some point the chances run out. Whether he figures it out in time or becomes another cautionary tale is up to him. Let me know in the comments who you want covered next. And if you made it this far, subscribe for more stories like this one.